So firstly, congratulations to you, Nitesh, for achieving India's first gaming IPO. That also a super successful one. You were oversubscribed 175 times. It's an ultimate dream for any startup to achieve the milestones. So how does it feel?
No, super, Akshay. I think, Nazara has been around for 2 decades, gone through a lot of evolution, pivots. We waited for a long time for the gaming industry to really come up in India. And, the company was started with a dream that India will become a gaming nation one day. So I believe the IPO was a very important milestone in our journey. And we were very happy to, achieve that milestone. At the same time, I think it's a new beginning for us. A lot more responsibility today. We have, close to 100,000 investors, and increasing every week and every month. We have a lot more responsibility, but at the same time, huge opportunities. I think this is the decade of gaming in India, and we are well poised to take, full advantage of the opportunities ahead of us. So exciting times.
Great. I think it's very, very good to know that a gaming company in India is actually gone public. It gives us a lot of confidence in all the other companies around in the gaming sector. So my second follow-up question to this is, at what stage, Nitesh, did you realize that you could take this company public, and what were the challenges that you faced as a company?
So we started thinking of an IPO around 2017, I would say. We had grown well. We had been profitable for many years. And at that point of time, profitability was important to be able to go public in India. Now things have changed a bit. So we started thinking about in 2017. We made our first attempt in 2018, which did not go through due to multiple reasons, including the market situation at that point of time. Then we kind of put it on the back burner. 3 years, we built the business further. And finally, we started rethinking about launching the IPO in 2020. So started real work towards it in mid-2020. And I think it took us about 7-8 months. Yeah, finally managed to, execute it successfully in March of 21. So right in the middle of the pandemic, they were able to run through with an IPO.
Yeah, I think pandemic has been a boom for the gaming sector. And I think the right timing is what I feel. You guys were the second most oversubscribed IPO this year, I guess. 175 times. So congratulations again to that.
I believe it was the third most subscribed IPO ever.
Okay.
In terms of
nice. Wow, I think gaming company to achieve this is actually a great boost for the entire industry. You talk about profitability, how profitability was one of the main criteria to get an IPO. Yeah. I would leave my next question towards this. In the last 2-3 years, we have seen an influx of capital in the gaming industry. Around $350 million US, if I'm correct, has been invested in the last 2-3 years. In your opinion, what are the key attributes that investors look for before investing in a gaming startup in India?
Yeah, sure. One is, I think, the macro trends, right? And I think the macro trends for a gaming startup in India are extremely favorable. 3 very important game changers: the penetration of smartphones, the low-cost data, and the evolving digital payment ecosystem in our country. These 3 put together, along with a 1 billion plus population that has young demographics, I think provide for very strong macro trends that really are making a lot of global investors excited about the gaming opportunity in India. I think the $350 million you spoke about is just the tip of the iceberg, and you will see potentially billions of dollars come in over the next few years. So I think from that perspective, it's a great time for Indian founders in the gaming space. From a gaming company, I think investors are looking for scale and growth now, because the market opportunity really exists, and they want to see founders who can, and teams that can execute to scale, right? It's unlike Nazara starting of 20 years back when the market didn't exist, and we had the luxury of time to slowly figure out what to do with our life, right? I think things are very different now. You need to go big fast. You need to dream big. You need to execute well. And then finally, your key KPIs, right? Your basic, depending on which business model you're running, engagement metrics, virality, monetization, conversion, these things are important, I think, at least some proof of concept there is important for investors.
Okay. Great. Just to understand, so you say it's there are these factors. I want to understand one thing. Do you think as startup, at a early stage startup, because there are two things that a startup could do. It could actually think of monetizing to sustain itself before it raises new rounds of funding, or it could actually think of capturing data, which we see happening in a lot of startups nowadays. What do you think? I know that we have to. There should be a sweet balance between both. But what according to you is important at this juncture of time in gaming in the industry?
Yeah, I think most definitely it is growth, right? I think you need, like I said, once you're able to establish a basic product market fit, you need to grow very fast. Whether you're monetizing or not monetizing is not so important, especially from an investor's perspective. If you're able to show growth backed by product metrics that are, fairly recent, they don't have to be ideal, because the company will optimize it over a period of time. But at least if they are kind of in the range, then I would say grow fast. Nazara always focused on profitability because we sustained or lived in a market when this ecosystem wasn't there, this opportunity wasn't there. And to sustain ourselves for a longer period of time, so that I could be here talking to you today, we had to focus on. But I think today startups should search for a quick early product market fit win. Focus on the key KPIs, which may not include monetization, and then move fast. And there's plenty of capital available, so they don't need to worry about that.
Okay, great to know. Good insights, Nitish. Next is we want to know something about Nazara. Nazara has 4 different business verticals to be broad business verticals that we could see. I think the first is gamified learning, which is Kiddopia, esports vertical. Then there's freemium and casual gaming. And I think last is the real money gaming. Just want to understand in the next 3 to 5 years, where do you think the biggest growth driver is coming from for Nazara in all the 4 verticals? And also, which vertical do you think would outperform each other? I know they're all four important. They're 4 babies for you, but just to understand, which do you think will be able to outperform the others?
Yeah. No, I think the good news is that all 4 for us are potentially high growth verticals. 2 of them are already showing very strong traction in terms of monetization. The esports business as well as the gamified early learning business are growing at a rapid pace and have also started achieving scale. So I think those are the two verticals that contribute 80% of our revenues today and growing fast. I think the freemium business is something that will take off for us in the years to come and will emerge as a very strong third vertical for us. And the RMG business is something we have largely been conservative about over the years due to the regulatory uncertainties, etc. But this year onwards, we are hoping to be a lot more aggressive. Probably we will go down the M&A route because it's a bit late for us to start from scratch. So we will probably do some acquisitions in that space to kind of make up for the lost time. And that will hopefully also allow that model to scale. So I think they're all different models, different markets. The learning business, for example, is more US-centric today. Esports is more India-centric. Freemium is India. RMG will be India today. So I think they are attending to different demographics, different markets, and each will have its own growth. Difficult for me to choose a particular vertical because each vertical has many founders that I work with, and I don't want to be partial to one because I will get a lot of brickbats from the others. But I think the freemium model has a lot of room for growth from a Nazara perspective. It's very small for us today and probably something that can jumpstart very fast for us in the next couple of years.
Okay, I get that. So basically, I read somewhere, and being a part of the industry, I also understand that India, actually, there's a lot of users who download the app in the freemium casual space. But the in-app purchases is still where India is struggling. So I feel with more digitalization, with more digital payment gateways, people are getting used to this culture, and I hope in the future casual gaming space and app purchases will also move in that direction.
It's starting to change. I heard some numbers from Google, etc., on IP purchases that are happening, and they're growing very fast. And the top games in India, top grossing games in India, are now making a few $1 million a month in revenue.
Okay.
So I think for Indian developers, they need to get also their own IP design, game economy, etc., right, to be able to compete with global titles in India. That includes us, and we are working on our titles like World Cricket Championship and IP conversion rates so that we can monetize better. But I think it's already happening. It's just that companies like ourselves need to evolve a bit faster when it comes to monetizing those models better.
Understood. The next question is actually, this question actually troubles a lot of startup founders. What are the pitfalls? Any pitfalls that, are there any pitfalls that startups in the gaming industry must avoid? Would love if you could actually give some personal examples of mistakes that you may or may not have made as a startup founder of Nazara.
Yeah, I think in the early years when we started, right, and the .com crash happened, as a young founder who had less experience, it took me very long to realize the reality of my business and the lack of product market fit at that point of time, and the lack of also monetization options. And because it took me a couple of years, I kind of dug myself into a hole that was difficult to get out of, and wasted a lot of time in it. I was reading a quote which said, if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing you should do is stop digging. Right? And
nice, man.
And I think that's something I missed, right? And I kept digging, and then it was difficult to get out of that hole easily. So I think founders need to be very practical. I always share with my team that, every morning when you wake up, you should have the courage to look yourself in the mirror and see all your flaws. Same goes for your business, right? It's very easy for us while running a business, become like an ostrich, trying to avoid unpleasant data, unpleasant KPIs, etc. So I think if you're willing to take them on, see the truth, adapt, evolve, pivot your business, that's one important thing according to me, which I learned the hard way. Secondly, I'm personally very personally debt averse. I don't like debt at all. I might be a bit conservative, but that's how I am. Nazara has always been a debt-free company, and this is not a big worry to founders now because there's enough of equity capital and risk capital available to them. Yeah. I think third is, I would say founders now should be, given the opportunity size, given the amount of capital available, be careful on how much they dilute. And they should only raise enough capital and maybe a little bit more than they really need, right? Because it sounds exciting to raise a few $1 million right at start, but if you're landing up diluting a lot, that's going to hurt in the long run. So that's another thing. And fourth is never chase vanity metrics, right? Focus on your core product KPIs that make a difference. For example, if you say I've got X amount of downloads for my game or app, that means nothing, right? But if you focus on how many DAUs, MAUs, D1 retention, D7 retention, D30 retention, and those are the metrics you need to focus on, rather than focus on vanity metrics like downloads. I think
absolutely.
The list can go on. 20 years gives you a lot of learnings. Learn through mistakes.
I think we should have one session with you directly to understand what learnings we could get from you, because I think 20 years in the gaming space, I think you would have many things to offer to us.
Imagine how many mistakes you would have made, right?
No, but then you reach that scale now that you have to learn from your mistakes. Sure. You have actually reached a scale that you are actually, we all as a startup in the gaming industry want to be there.
We're still happily making mistakes all the time, so we keep learning.
I actually believe you should make mistakes, but you should not repeat those mistakes. So if you make mistakes and don't repeat those mistakes and actually improve, I think that is the way forward. You will make mistakes as a startup.
Of course.
Yeah. And Nitesh, my last question to you before I end this session. Gaming is majorly enjoyed by Gen Z and millennials in India. 65% of our population actually comprises of this audience. There are many budding entrepreneurs who actually want to convert their passion for gaming into entrepreneurship ventures. If you could dig deep into the initial formative years of your startup journey and share your thoughts on what are the best ways to start a company in terms of till when should you bootstrap? Till when should an entrepreneur bootstrap, and when is the right time for an entrepreneur to actually go out and raise funding? Because this part is actually very crucial for a young startup to understand.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think obviously the ideal situation would be to bootstrap all the way to the IPO, right? If you can. And there are companies now who are doing it. Look at Zerodha, for example.
Yeah, Zerodha is a great example.
Right? They're going to land up doing their IPO sooner or later, having completely bootstrapped. I'm saying that is the one end of the spectrum. But at the same time, it's not good to be idealistic. You have to be practical. And in a market that you are today, right, like I said, it's competitive, it's growing very fast, and you have to grow fast. So if your business model allows you to continue to bootstrap and grow fast, or you have a product that's so viral or it's so this that, it will just fly off the shelves. Ludo King is a example, right? Which was so successful and again completely bootstrapped. Then it's good. If it's not, then I think you should get your basic PMF fast, iterate quickly so that you can reach that PMF in a few months' time, and then start raising some capital so that you can move fast. I think there is a huge cost of time now. And in all your calculations, it's very important that you include the cost of time while taking a decision.
I think I agree with you, because the faster you get capital is the faster when you grow, and because it's so competitive outside, it's the better you get, the earlier you get funding and earlier you grow. I think it makes more sense for your startup to grow and you get a competitive edge over other startups. Thank you, Nitish. Thanks a lot. I think I'm sure all the viewers would have learned a lot. I have learned a lot, and there's a lot of takeaways from this entire session. We wish you and Nazara all the best in the future, and we hope to stay in touch. We hope to have more sessions like this. And thank you very much.
Thank you for